a lot of things you have to do, and one is try to figure out who the characters are in movement. Not so much in writing, but now in movement. So what we did was, and then a lot of shows work this way, is that you end up doing these things called walk cycles, and it's just pencil drawings, animated, of the characters doing different walks. And it was important for me to capture. You should watch and see if you can notice that, because all the characters move differently. We went through a lot of those, from walking to runs, to stopping and turning around, and God, we've done so many of those things in order to come up with the final product as you see. One of the great ones that you'll notice is how they blink, because they all blink differently. Double D and Eddy are pretty close in how they blink.
Woo! I think the circus is in town!
But watch how Ed blinks his eyes.
Where does a chicken come from?
You'll be surprised how different it is. You'll notice when they're running, especially, that Eddy's got this great sort of hot to trot gait to him, that he's ready to go for it, cash in, get all the money he can. Hey, come on guys, follow me, type of scenario. And then you'll see Double D when he runs, and then he's got that proper sort of English running kind of scenario where he's got his arms up in the air and he's walking along. And then you've got Ed, who runs totally weird, because Ed has just so much bone in his head that it's really hard for him to keep it up. So he always sort of walks back and sort of has his head leaning backwards when he's running, and he's laughing away, having a great time. So the boiling line's created by tracing off a drawing, same drawing, 3 times. So we get a piece of drawing paper, throw it over top, ink out, we trace out the character, say it's Eddy screaming at Ed, take it off, get another piece of paper, trace it off again, put that down, get another piece of paper, trace off that same drawing again. And so now once we shoot that underneath the camera, say like 2 frames, or actually we shoot it maybe every 3 frames, that line will sit on, when you're watching it on television, will actually boil and shake and shimmer. And so then I think it really helps keep the characters alive.
Nice shoe!
So the reason we use that boiling line is so that the show literally stood out from the other shows on Cartoon Network. You notice that a lot of the shows have a lot of the straight and forward lines, which is very, very cool and very traditional cartoons. But I just wanted to throw it another way. I was kind of bored with all that clean and nice looking kind of stuff. The theme song was part of the package that, in a sense, that I had put together to show Cartoon Network when I was doing the show. I thought it'd be really cool that as much as that you're looking at just drawings and stuff, I thought it'd be really cool to listen to a theme song. It was this great song, very old song, that was done by this guy named Bob Cosby and the Bobcats, and it was this jazz song. It was called Big Noise from Winnetka, and it was whistled. And I always remember when I was a kid, I always liked to whistle. So I thought, okay, let's do a whistling theme song. And so the composer, Patrick Caird, who does all the music for the show, which is really cool, he came up with a tune, and then I went in and whistled out the whistling part as you know it now. You notice that on the tongues, on all the characters, they all have different colored tongues, and I think that came from, well, I'm sure it came from one time when my son Marlo, he had come into, well, I was working on a board, and he had come in with a bunch of his buddies, and they were all sitting there, and they had all finished eating candy, and they were trying to talk to me about the show and stuff, and they all had different colored tongues from eating all the different colored candies, and I thought, hey, that's very cool. It's a total kid thing. So I thought I'd put that in the show. You'll always notice there's like an evolutionary process to everything that happens. Like you'll notice on this DVD set, there's a certain look to the way the Eds are, to how you're actually seeing them on air today. And it's because characters actually start growing. They start evolving and getting tighter and changing in shapes and everything else. And it's a perfectly normal reason for doing that. It's like when you first come out with the drawings are done quickly out of your mind, and all of a sudden you're developing these characters and how you're drawing them. And say that like the Cankers, originally had like a vest on Lee and had different types of clothing, and it was all about seeing how they played together as 3 characters, and then how they what they wore as part of their personalities. And so that went through Cankers, and even with the Eds of Eddy wearing the bowling shirt and Ed wearing his jacket all the time, his sort of striped jacket. Double D and dressed the way he is too, with his, you know, sort of leotards. But it's an evolutionary process. So it's not even a thing of that you're always stuck to one thing at early on in the stage. You just let it grow, and it constantly grows. It ends up taking life on its own. Coming up with the Eds was a big dare. Somebody dared me to make a kid's show, you know, and hey, you know, who better to come to than me, right? So I just thought, you know, I came up with this drawing that I was doing. I was actually doing the design for this commercial, and I did this drawing of Ed and Eddy, as you know them now. And I thought, gee, this is really cool. It's like when you, and I don't want to sound too arty about this, but it's like you do you do a drawing, and it actually comes to life, and your mind goes like 100 miles an hour, and you start thinking of all these great things you could do with that drawing. It's awesome, and it really worked out nice. And from there, you know, I started developing all the characters and who they were and what they were and everything else, and then I put it on a one-page fax, and I faxed it over to Cartoon Network. Once you look at the DVD, you'll see how things have really changed. Have a look at and see if you can tell the differences on how the characters have changed, and even some of the background stuff has changed throughout. And you'll even notice it in this set, that even at the last show that we did for this season, there's a big changeover. But notice the big changeover to what you're seeing on TV today. Massive. So don't ever worry if you're doing something on your own. Don't ever worry about getting stuck and thinking that you have to do it perfect the first time. You know, everybody always wants to know what's underneath Double D's hat, but you know what? You ain't gonna find out until we do the feature. So write the card, tell them you want a feature, and we'll do it. We'll show you what's underneath Dudley's hat, and believe me, you won't be the same. Jimmy's character is really funny. You know, he's a total steal of a cousin I used to have who was that way. And in that way, I just mean he used to like to play with the girls. You know, guys always hung out together, and we always played and did stuff and everything else. But you know, he was always hanging out with the girls. He'd like to play with the dolls. He'd like to play with the girls and whatever.
It's beautiful.
So I thought, hey, that kind of guy's got to be in my show. You know, it was fun, and I think Jimmy's a cool character. I love the things that he does within the show. It's funny how Plank has really taken on this sort of persona of his own. I mean, somebody's actually called him the Enigma. You know, he's like this thing that no one can explain, but he's like everywhere. It was funny because he was taken from a childhood friend of mine who always hung around like Johnny outside.
I told you bunnies would take over the world, and they have!
He was always loitering around, quite a bit of a loner, and he had a blanket. And I know Linus, Peanuts, he had a blanket and everything, so I needed something in order to play to that character that I remembered when I was a kid. And so I used a piece of wood with a face drawn on it. It was so hard for a lot of folks to sort of get that at first, because they wanted to make the wood smile and talk and blink and like he was alive, you know, like. But I said, no, it's just a piece of wood, and you need to treat it just like a piece of wood. And it's Johnny's imagination that makes Plank what it is.
What's that, Plank? You want to feel too? Okay.
We've got a model sheet, and you know that in animation we have model sheets for all our characters, so that other people that are working on the show, they know how to draw the characters. And the model sheet for Plank is like about 6 drawings, and they're all exactly the same of Plank, but underneath them they have happy, sad, scared, and everything else, but he never changes his expression, as you've probably already seen. If you guys want to do cartoons, don't let anything stop you. Don't listen to anybody. Just follow your heart. Believe in your vision and in what you see and what you want to do, and go for broke. Learn from your mistakes, not other people's mistakes. You've got to make the mistakes in order to learn from them, and go for it and take it as far as it'll go. If that's what you want to do, no one can stop you.